Emre, welcome to the Building and Growing podcast. We're delighted to have you here today.
Same here. Thanks for your invite. I'm excited to talk to you about all the things about our startup, about career, and hope it's gonna be helpful.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. It's always a pleasure to film in Istanbul. My favorite city, the city that we met in back at Getir a few years ago. But look, Emre is one of the co-founders of Cenoa, and I guess we'll dive into Cenoa during the podcast. But why don't we start off with an introduction to yourself and a bit about your background?
Sounds good. Well, thanks, Lucas. And as you know, I'm one of the co-founders of Cenoa, and we are four co-founders, and we started Cenoa about 2 years ago. And before that, as you know, I was at Getir. I was Chief Product Officer, started the product management team there, and also ended up leading product engineering and design teams.
Yes.
We were working hard, closely.
That's it,
during the time where Getir grew actually 20x during the pandemic, and we launched 9 different countries, many different products, etc. So it was a very fun time while I was there.
You kept your hair, I didn't, during that 20x growth.
Yeah, well, some of it, I would say.
Yeah.
Some of it. And before Getir, I was in Silicon Valley, in San Francisco area, and I had mostly leadership positions, especially product leadership positions in companies like Slice, Unroll.me, Zoom. And I started another VC-backed company in San Francisco called Soru.ai.
Okay.
And that was actually related to AI and analytics. And now with all the ChatGPT and everything, now these things are actually very hot, but actually we started that in, I think, 2016, 17.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Back in time, before all the hype. It was very fun back then, and definitely technology was very different back then.
Yeah.
It was definitely a fun journey too. And yeah, before that, I was in Turkey, also worked in technology. So long story short, I launched different products and led product and engineering teams for about 16 years.
Wow.
In small companies, in big companies like Getir or Nokia, and everything in between, mostly in technology. I have an MBA at Stanford.
Yes.
That's actually where I met my current co-founder. And as a fun fact, I played professional basketball.
Oh, wow, really?
When I was in high school and college.
Yeah.
And I'm a surfer.
Yes, yeah, that's it. We're both from beach cities.
Exactly.
But I guess in Istanbul, the only place really you could surf is in the Black Sea.
There are a few spots actually in Black Sea that you can surf, which I was very happily surprised about it when I moved back to Istanbul.
Yes.
For Getir, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, thank you for that fantastic introduction. And, I guess you really have done a whole lot of different things over those 16 years before you decided to take the plunge as a founder. And so you mentioned that you opened up Cenoa 2 years ago. Going back then, to 2022, I guess, the macro environment was, let's say, a little bit more positive than what we have now in 2024. But can you talk to us the sort of reasons behind why you founded Cenoa?
Why we started?
Yeah.
Well, my co-founder Seçkin and I, we been actually brainstorming about different ideas, fintech ideas, etc. And then I thought we both wanted to start something together.
Yes.
And at that time we were looking different areas. And I remember in December 2021, there was a devaluation crisis in Turkey. The currency was very fluctuated rapidly in just a few days.
Yes.
And I remember at that time I was at a cab. And then I was talking to the cab driver, and he was telling me that each day when he works all day, before going home, he will go to an exchange office and then basically convert all his Turkish liras to dollars
Wow, yeah.
before even going home
Insane. Every day.
every day.
Yeah.
Because like he was just so afraid that like the Turkish lira will devaluate.
Yes.
So that was kind of the, I would say, inspiration.
Mm.
And I saw that there was an avid pain point, a huge pain point
Yes.
for a lot of people. And then we dig more and then we realized inflation and devaluation was the biggest pain point for millions of people in the world, not only in Turkey, but countries like Egypt, Nigeria, Pakistan, Argentina,
Yes.
etc. In many places in the world. So we wanted to tackle that pain point, that problem.
Yeah,
That's
fantastic.
how, that was the initial inspiration. I would
Yeah,
say.
indeed. And look, I mean, I think it is such an important pain point for people because there's nothing worse, I guess, than seeing, you know, the value of your money depreciate in real terms before your eyes. All of a sudden, maybe you could go on holiday somewhere, afford to go overseas a few times a year, and then all of a sudden, you know, in real terms, you can't afford to do that anymore. So
Yeah, that happened to me actually. Before, in November, I was on vacation for a couple of weeks actually.
yes,
And I had some of my savings in Turkish liras. And by the time I came back, and it was devalued by, I think it was like 30% or something. So
yes,
it's like,
yeah.
So that was a pain point for a lot of people, but also that was a pain point for us.
Indeed,
So
yeah.
that's why,
I
we
mean,
lived through it.
yeah, December 2021, I was earning lira as well, and I remember going
Yeah.
to London and ordering 2 hamburgers and realizing that that was like, you know, 10% of my net salary, and I thought, oh, shivers. You know, I guess at that point in time, I started dabbling a little bit in crypto, but, you know, I guess, you know, it would be great to hear a bit more about, you know, sort of what you started to build as a result of
Right.
identifying those problems.
Right. So initially, we wanted to, as I was telling you, we wanted to help people fight against inflation and devaluation. And for that, we realized millions of people turn to strong currencies like
Yes.
US dollars. But at the same time, dealing with US dollars or buying US dollars, selling US dollars, or transferring US dollars, or holding US dollars in many countries is either very expensive or inefficient, or in some cases it's even illegal.
Yes. Yeah.
And there are a bunch of limitations, etc. So, but at the same time, there's a big need. And for instance, in Turkey, I think back in time, I don't remember, I can't remember the current numbers, but back in time, I think 70% of all savings was in Turkey was denominated in dollars.
Okay.
So basically, that was a huge need and demand, but at the same time, it's expensive and there's high markups, etc. So it's difficult for people to actually bank with dollars.
Yeah.
So we wanted to start a international digital dollar account for emerging economies.
Yes.
So that's what Cenoa is. It's a digital dollar account where people can buy dollars, can sell dollars, can save in dollars and get an inflation-resistant yield.
Yes.
And also transfer dollars easily and in a very cost-efficient way.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And the way we can do it internationally is because we are using blockchain technology. So it's on blockchain rails. Therefore, it's actually much more efficient than current TradFi infrastructure.
Fantastic. And so, how did you sort of build that out with the blockchain rails?
So basically, it has a couple of different components. And the first one is it's a wallet.
Yes.
And the wallet is completely non-custodial, meaning each wallet that user owns or user opens, that we cannot touch anything, we cannot do anything about it.
Yes.
So each wallet is controlled by its users. So there's that. So there's one component is the wallet, and it's a non-custodial wallet where user actually can, in banking terms, it's basically an account, but no one can control the account but the user.
Yeah.
And the other component is, since it's on blockchain, we need to somehow connect this blockchain world to local banking systems.
Yes.
And for that, we are using licensed fintechs in each country. For instance, in Europe, we are working with Transact.
Yes.
Or in Nigeria, we are working with CoinProfile, PhoneBank, or Paychant, etc. And then these licensed fintechs basically connect local banks to blockchain. And therefore, when a user opens a bank account, they can just put money from their own banks, from their own bank accounts, and then put money to Cenoa through these fintechs or through these bridges.
Fantastic. And I think the point you mentioned around non-custodial accounts is really important, because one problem of the traditional banking system in some emerging markets, I guess I'm thinking particularly, say, of Lebanon at the moment, is the fact that if currency controls are introduced or capital controls are introduced,
Correct.
there's a limit to how much you're able to withdraw. But in a non-custodial account, you can take out what's yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think there's two ways to to look at it. First, yes, it's capital control free, because no one, if it's on blockchain and if it's non-custodial, no one can really touch that money.
Yes.
So therefore, it's capital control resistant. So that's one advantage. And the other advantage is, and then unfortunately, we saw a bunch of events like Silicon Valley Bank crashed, or FTX crashed, or all Celsius crashed, etc. But if it's non-custodial, let's say 50 years from now, if Cenoa doesn't exist, users can still take their money out.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because we cannot touch, as Cenoa, we cannot touch any money in the platform.
Yes.
So even if Cenoa doesn't exist, let's say 50 years from now, hopefully it will exist for hundreds of years, but even if it doesn't, users can still get their money out without even checking with us, basically.
Excellent, excellent. And you mentioned that you've got some partners in say Europe, some partners in Nigeria. Are you able to talk to us a little bit about sort of how you funded the business and started to expand?
So we raised about $7.5 million from top fintech VCs in the US.
Yes.
And namely companies like Underscore VC, Quiet Capital, Hulu Ventures, Ecru VC, Human Capital, and Collective Spark. And these are also the VCs of top fintechs globally. For instance, these are also investors of Coinbase, Chime, Robinhood.
Okay.
So all global fintechs actually, these investors also invested in top fintechs around the world, and hopefully we will be one of them.
Yes,
we are working
indeed,
on that.
indeed.
And what we started is we did a bunch of market tests in different regions, and then we saw great potential in Nigeria, especially, and great demand. And we started initially in Nigeria, focusing on Nigerian market.
Yep.
And we quickly reached a lot of users there. And in this year, actually, we plan to expand in Turkey as well.
Okay, fantastic. That's excellent. And I guess you mentioned before that Nigeria, Egypt, Turkey, I think Argentina. There are quite a few different countries there that have high inflation rates and depreciating local currencies. Why did you choose Nigeria first?
I think a couple of things. First is inflation and devaluation was a huge problem there, huge pain point there. And secondly, in Nigeria, people are actually very familiar with blockchain technologies. Yes. And they're also early adopters. Also, the population is very young and growing, and very vibrant market.
Yes.
But I guess more importantly, the demand was huge in Nigeria.
Yeah.
When we first launched, in just a couple of months, we reached more than 50,000 accounts.
Wow.
And now we have over 150,000 accounts in Nigeria.
Nice.
We saw a huge demand, and this demand, a big chunk of the demand actually came through referrals,
Yeah.
Or word of mouth, etc. So we saw, because of that demand, we wanted to actually initially start with Nigeria, and because there's also a huge pain point.
Yes. Fantastic.
And all of us actually, let's say not all of us are planning to actually go to Nigeria, but three of us, Seçkin and I and Miray, actually also visited Nigeria and stayed there a couple of weeks, and then saw the demand and then talked to a bunch of users there, and then we were convinced that we are solving a big pain point for the country, so that's why we also wanted to start there.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, congratulations. I mean, it's
you.
some awesome traction. And in terms of acquiring those users, you spoke about a lot of it being done through referrals, which is excellent. It shows that when there's a high viral factor, it really shows that you're solving a problem well. I know that we had that at Revolut back in the day. Everybody wanted to help their friends save 2 to 4% when they went overseas and on their debit cards. Have there been any other, I suppose, like real key drivers for you in terms of go to market?
Yeah, I think in Nigeria, we realized actually when we first started referral campaigns, users picked up very quickly. And then we realized even some of the influencers just like published us without even talking to us, just published us to actually spread the word.
Wow.
And then we realized, okay, like maybe we should actually talk to some influencers as well.
Yes.
So then we we ran some influencer marketing there, and it was also very successful.
Yes.
We did a PR launch, like we talked to a couple of technology publications there, and that was also very successful. And overall, again, like we reached that many users in Nigeria, but I think it's a combination of all this. I would say like a PR, influencers, and referrals.
Indeed, fantastic. I mean, yeah, diversification at the top of the funnel is always very healthy.
Right.
But that's great. And Emre, you touched upon a little bit of your 2024 roadmap, notably expanding into Turkey. But are there any other, I suppose, key items on that roadmap that you could talk us through?
I would say the vision of Cenoa eventually to really transform all banking use cases. Because blockchain is a much better technology than traditional finance infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we saw that transition, let's say, in the internet, like when the internet came in, like in the 90s, that actually created businesses like Amazon, for instance, where it used to be all retail. But then with the power of internet, then like a big chunk of trade now happens online.
Indeed.
And we believe that the future of banking will go through a similar transformation.
Yes.
And the big chunk of the banking use cases will happen on blockchain rails. So that's why, in a way, at Cenoa, our vision is to really create the future of banking. And so that's the long-term vision. And in the short term, the way we prioritize is really to listening to our users.
Yes.
So we are doing a bunch of product tests. We are trying to talk to our users all the time, every day, actually. And even like users reach out to me on WhatsApp all the time. Sometimes they call me at midnight, etc.
Oh,
like
really?
asking something. So we are doing everything we can to talk to our users to clarify our product roadmap. So besides the Turkey launch, we will definitely want to test some of the product offerings. For instance, USD debit cards is one of them. It might be maybe loans or maybe USD, like a bank accounts, like different product offerings that we want to test.
Yeah.
But we want to prioritize these roadmap through our users.
Indeed, indeed. And I think this is a really good segue into maybe diving into product as a theme. You know, I guess your career and a lot of your success has come from the product space. And you've been mentioning doing things like, you know, collecting user feedback, doing research, running product tests. I'm just wondering, you know, how we can best sort of explore those, or maybe give a bit of an overview for people in the audience that might not be familiar with those. So I'm not sure if there's one you'd like to start with, but yeah, maybe the product testing.
Like, how are we doing product testing?
Yeah.
I see. I think there are a couple of things. In an early stage of a product, I think the goal needs to be maximizing the customer feedback. And therefore, what we are doing is we are actually building a lot of feedback loops and a lot of triggers where user can give us feedback. And there are different ways to do it. I mean, obviously there are ways like we send our users surveys.
Yes.
Or like we do a bunch of A/B tests, for instance, to get data. Or sometimes we use techniques like fake doors, for instance. Like, I mean, before launching a full-fledged product, like we actually test the demand before even launching the product.
Yeah.
And then we use these techniques to really see like what percentage of our customers want certain product features. And in a way, what we are trying to do also, we always prioritize the MVP mentality, meaning like whatever we're gonna do, we first make it a very smaller version as the MVP version, and then test that in different ways, either surveys or fake doors or A/B tests, or user research even before launching the product, like doing user research to really get a sense of the demand. And after we are more convinced about the demand, then we do phases. So in the first phase, it's MVP. Second phase, maybe a little bit more polished. The third phase, more polished, and eventually launch the full-fledged product. So I would say that's our key, building the triggers, feedback loops. And we always, when we build something, we always optimize the time to data.
Yes.
Because the shorter span you get data from users, the faster you can move, and the more likely that you succeed in the long term.
Indeed.
So that's what we are aiming.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that you know, that sort of shortest route to data approach, because iteration is key. And you know, these days you are able to get data in real time and to iterate on that. I remember, you know, a few years ago we were talking about products like mixed panel and amplitude, you know, so that you can actually see in real time how users are engaging with applications and what their flows look like, and then using that to create triggers, which then gives you more and more data.
Exactly.
But you know, I guess we are in an age where data points are almost unlimited. How do you focus on what is valuable data and separate that from what is noise?
I see. Well, I will say that's a that's a very difficult question actually, and we are tackling that every day, because in some cases, I would say you always need to verify data from different sources, and you always need to have a good balance between qualitative data versus quantitative data.
Yes.
And for instance, I'll give you an example that, as I was telling you, that we run all the surveys, we track NPS, we look at all these customer metrics, etc. And we saw one of the users that user seems like very happy, like very high NPS, referred bunch of friends, etc., and says very like great things about us.
Yeah.
But we look at his wallet, and then he has let's say less than $5 in the wallet.
Yeah.
And then we are like, okay, this doesn't make sense. If that person is so happy with us, then like why he's not increasing his balance over time? And then we talked to this person, and then he was telling us this, okay, like I love Genoa, but at the same time, this is all my life savings.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there was a realization that like sometimes you need qualitative data to verify your hypothesis. And you need to balance the quantitative data with the qualitative data.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really good point, because I guess, perspective is a big thing. What might be for us like, all right, it's $5. We can go and buy a coffee with it. Whereas to someone else, that could be everything, because their marginal propensity to consume is so high. And yeah, that's a really interesting point. Quite a humbling sort of moment, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also to your point, like the filtering, like noise versus data, I think it's not very easy. I would say it's often actually very hard, especially in an early stage startup. But the answer is talking at the end of the day, talking to as many users as possible is the key.
Yeah.
To really.
Fantastic. And I'm going to talk now a little bit about sort of blockchain and emerging markets. And the reason that I'm putting them in the same box is because sometimes both of them can be characterized by uncertainty, in terms of regulation, in terms of, just user behavior as well in general. How do you manage that uncertainty and build and grow a business in the face of it?
That's a very good question, actually. I mean, the uncertainty is also is the nature of early stage startups, right? So that's kind of the key. But I would say uncertainty also creates opportunities, because if everything around you is certain, it probably means that there's not much opportunity to grow or to create, etc. And blockchain and emerging markets, I think they kind of go well together because of the pain points.
Yes.
Because when you think about it, especially in developed economies like US, for instance, that the banking system, although it has flaws, it's a lot stronger than the banking system in emerging economies. And in that case, or it's, let's say not stronger, but let's say more stable.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. In that case, and blockchain actually wants to help that instability. And therefore, in emerging economies, there's actually bigger need for blockchain-based products.
Yes.
At the same time, like I want to actually separate blockchain technologies and crypto, or like coins, because these are completely different phenomena.
Indeed.
In crypto, all these coins, etc., there's a lot of uncertainty about the blockchain as the technology itself is actually a new technology, and a lot of developers, very smart developers, building on top of it, and it's steadily improving.
Indeed.
So therefore, and we only use stable coins, for instance, and we never touch like other like meme coins or any other coins, etc. So we only use stable coins. And in our world, actually, the blockchain is a lot more certain than all the crazy crypto coins world.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's they're like two different worlds.
Really interesting that you mentioned, I guess that importance of, the fact that blockchain is not crypto. We did a podcast a couple of months ago with Outlier Ventures, and they spoke about, how Walmart's Store 8 incubator is collaborating with them to use blockchain technology as part of, say, the supply chain. People often don't realize that the benefits of blockchain, are technological, and they're there beyond, just say financial use cases. So it's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to, I mean, when the internet came, in the early years, we didn't know all the use cases.
Yes.
Or when the first iPhone came, actually, at that year, I was, in 2007, I was in Palo Alto, actually. I saw even Steve Jobs talking to users in the Palo Alto Apple store.
Oh, wow.
When it first came out,
Yeah.
we actually didn't imagine like what kind of apps or what kind of products we could build on top.
Indeed.
And blockchain, like the previous technologies or like the other technologies, probably create a lot of opportunities that we don't even know yet.
Yes. Yeah.
So all the coins or meme coins or crypto coins, etc., it's really a very small portion of it. But the technology itself will enable many different products that I think no one's aware of yet.
Indeed.
So that's why I'm very excited about the technology. That's why like I want to separate the crypto coins versus all the rest of the products that we haven't imagined yet.
Yeah, indeed. And I think, that really brings me to the idea of like the ecosystem play. So if we think about Xero, which is a cloud accounting software, they created a marketplace for applications which disrupted the accounting industry more than people could have imagined. The App Store has allowed us to do so much more on the iPhone, than we ever imagined. And then other companies like Shopify, for example, as well. Building out that sort of app ecosystem, and so the blockchain is just opening another ecosystem.
Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to look back to that in a couple of years to see where we get to.
I'm very excited. Even like in 10 years or 20 years, I think we will be probably talking about many different products.
So Emre, we've covered a lot today in terms of what Genoa is. The fact that you and Seckin identified, the pain point faced by people in high inflationary markets. We've talked about, your product career and some product principles, as well as the fact that, blockchain and crypto should be looked at through separate lenses. Blockchain really is the ecosystem play, and that technology will disrupt us in many years to come. You did mention one really exciting thing earlier on that you plan on launching in Turkey this year.
Right.
So do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, and I think the Turkish market we've been very excited about for a long time because that's the user that we know the most, and these are the users also. For instance, for me personally, I want to use Genoa for my on a day-to-day basis, actually, like more and more.
Yes.
Like this quarter, we are planning to launch in Turkey that we are very excited about. And so if for all the early adopters in Turkey, I'm now talking to them.
Yep.
So please use the product. Please give us feedback. We are all ears.
Yep.
And just keep in mind that we are building the product for you, so that any feedback is very valuable for us. So just like it's a call for the Turkish early adopter community that use Genoa and give us feedback, and because we are building the product for you.
Indeed. Türkçe'de söylemek istiyor musun? Do you want to say it in Turkish?
Sure.
I guess more people will understand it.
Okay, sure. Turkish, Genoa'yı Türkiye'de açmak için sabırsızlıkla bekliyoruz. Özellikle Türkiye'deki bu yeni teknolojileri açık olan kullanıcılar için erkenden denesinler ve de bize düşüncelerini söylesinler. Çünkü zaten bu ürünü onlar için geliştiriyoruz. Ve gerçekten kullanıcıdan gelen feedbackleri çok önemsiyoruz. O bakımdan bize ulaşmaktan sakın çekinmesinler. Birçok kanaldan, yani LinkedIn'den, e-mail'den, her yoldan bize ulaşabilirler. Heyecanla bekliyoruz Türkiye'deki kullanıcıların feedbacklerini.
Fantastic. Awesome. Look, Emre, thank you once again for joining us. I guess, for the final part now, are there any key takeaways that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think you talked about uncertainty
Yeah.
And I would say uncertainty is hard to manage from day-to-day basis. It creates stress.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that's how we progress,
Mm-hmm.
or that's how we really move forward. And so I want to actually maybe final key takeaways for the entrepreneurs.
Yep.
I think entrepreneurs should ask themselves that, are we fighting the good fight?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we really doing this for a good cause or for good impact?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I'm very excited about my journey personally in Genoa, because every day I know that we are fighting the good fight.
Yes.
Because we want to make the world a better place by building the products that helps millions of people.
Yeah.
So that really gives me personally the motivation to deal with the uncertainties of entrepreneurship.
Yes. Yeah.
So in short, fight the good fight.
Yeah.
I think that's one. And the second thing is, entrepreneurship is actually an irrational act, because most of the startups unfortunately fail.
Yep.
And I was reading a study that even I think Carta explained 86% of all seed startups don't even make it to Series A.
Far out. Yeah.
So the odds are against you.
Yeah, indeed.
But you should still do it, because you have chance to change the world, which is a great. But at the same time, you need to make sure that it's not all about the destination, but it's mostly about the journey.
Yeah.
That during this journey, startup journey, are you really enjoying it, or are you enjoying the journey, or are you learning? Are you becoming better at your job, becoming better personally? So that's also I try to keep in my mind, and this is my second startup.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll make it, and we are doing all best we do to do that. But I also want to make sure that during the journey, every day I learn more, and every day I become a better person professionally and personally. So journey matters also as much as, let's say, the destination, and we also need to keep in mind as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So that's the second takeaway for the entrepreneurs in the audience.
Indeed. Well, look, Emre, very inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing those. And, we're looking forward to continuing to watch both Genoa's journey, but also your own, and hearing, hearing whether you're keeping that promise to yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll do another talk in a couple of years and see where we are at. But
Indeed,
we are
yes.
very hopeful about Genoa, and definitely hopeful we'll provide a good use case, and we provide good value for our thousands of users among the world.
Fantastic. Excellent. Emre, çok teşekkür ederim.
Ben teşekkür ederim. Çok sağ ol.
Thank you, mate.